Welcome in to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, the official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans. A podcast dedicated to everything you need to know about the squad. Hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and those who cover the NBA on a daily basis. It's time to flock up. The New Orleans Pelicans Podcast starts right now.
Hello, and welcome to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans. As always, it's a pleasure to have in Mr. Jim Eichenhofer out of town, but that doesn't mean he's still not willing to hang out with us a little bit. Jim, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, Gus. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm in New York for a funeral. I won't be on the Monday show as a result, but we're going to have a 3 time zone podcast here today with Mr. Graffagnini coming up from the West Coast.
That is true. East Coast, Central Time, where I'm at, and then Graff out there in L.A. Jim, we got a lot to get into. I can't wait to hear what he has to say, including the Graffies, his time over catching a Dodger game in between games here as well. But we do have to touch on that first game on Wednesday, and it was the Clippers. And it was a fun game. And look, I think if you're a Pels fan, it's kind of what you want at this point of the season. This is what it sounded like on the Pelicans Radio Network.
Inbound to Messi, takes 2 steps and jams right before the shot clock buzzer. Now Jose, lob it up for Messi and a 2-hand flush. No call now. Alvarado trying to go coast to coast. Puts up the floater in the lane, and he does go coast to coast. So a quick 5-0 run, you've cut it back to 8 again. Reeves listening to the broadcast, left angle, pop a 3, make a 3.
Look, Rook was 15 out of his last 21 from 3. 15 of his last, that's 71%, folks.
Now even the lane, bounce feed to Brown, another great pass by Messi, and Brown the lay-in. It's 56-45. How about Messi with 3 dimes?
I mean, he's showing a little passing skills, especially on the interior here.
Jose doing a curly kneel in the lane. Gets it to Antonio Reeves, and the shot put from the dotted line is down. Reeves continues to produce. He's got 9 points now. And Reeves tries to answer again off the mark, but Yves Messi comes in and absolutely throws it down on the follow-up with 2 hands.
I would term that a stuff.
I would agree, sir.
114-98 was the final. After the game, head coach Willie Green had this to say.
You know, there's some improvements that we got to make even in a losing effort, but I thought overall the guys collectively went out and they really competed, played hard. There were some key moments in there where they made a couple more plays than we did.
Jim, when you take a look at that game, 31 second quarter points by the Pels. They were right there in that game. It was competitive all the way around. If you listen to Jose Alvarado and others in the post-game locker room, they were like, look, it's a good team. I know Graff and JD said it in the broadcast. They're playoff all-star caliber players on that team there as well. And you went back and forth with them. You made them have to earn that win there in the fourth quarter. Just overall thoughts on what you saw on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the last 4 games that the Pelicans have played where they went 2-1 on the homestand, and in between the middle game, they lost to Golden State on that Friday night a week ago. The game against the Clippers was very similar to that to me of what happened against the Warriors, where you're playing against a really good team. You're playing against guys that are going to be in the Hall of Fame. You're very undermanned. You're shorthanded. You have a bunch of rookies that are playing. But for the first 3 quarters or so, you're in the game and you have a chance to, maybe win or at least be competitive. But then in the fourth quarter, some of the experience that the Clippers had, just kind of like Golden State and the Warriors took over in the fourth quarter, and you end up losing by double figures. But, I mean, we said this in the postgame show Friday night in the Smoothie King Center. I mean, we were okay with the effort that they put forth and the performance overall. It was one of those things where, people say there's no moral victories in the NBA, but, I mean, it was a commendable performance. It was not a bad night overall. They just didn't have quite enough to hang when it came down to it at the end.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that's definitely something that you look at, but at the same time, some of these guys stepping up and making some plays. Jim, 6 players in double figures for the Pelicans. Not bad. That means, guys are getting shots. Balls being distributed. A lot's going to be talked about here and has already about the job Jose Alvarado's been doing as a starter. You can't have 6 players in double figures if your point guard isn't distributing it, huh?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think he and Elfrid Payton are doing a nice job. It was only 4 assist game for Elfrid Payton, where, I mean, my standards for him are already so high that I'm just like, backup point guard, I still look for like 8 to 10 assists from him. in every game. But yeah, I mean, those guys are doing a nice job of getting people the ball. And I'm also very impressed with, in both cases, Jose and Alfred, where it's not like they've been on the court a ton relative to the season with some of these other players, but yet they seem to be developing very good chemistry where, Alfred with Carlo Makovic and Jose with a bunch of different guys where they've already learned, okay, this is where I can get this guy the ball. And some of the trust that they have with some of the big guys and some of the younger bigs has been something that is really encouraging and something that you don't necessarily expect to happen in a short amount of time. But I think a lot of that speaks to the basketball IQ that both Alfred and Jose have and they bring to the court.
No doubt. Let's see what takes place tonight as they take on the Lakers. We're going to get a little bit into that here in a quick sec. But, Jim, the Lakers playing last night. And, look, I'm just be honest with you. I'm sitting on the couch. I'm watching it. I felt, smelt, and sure looked like a playoff game. It was incredible in the last couple of minutes. You see why still after all these years, LeBron James, Steph Curry, man, they moved the needle. And it was so good to see, I guess, there as well. I'm wondering what kind of energy, what the Lakers have, because, Jim, I look at the standings, man. Every game matters, right, to these teams other than the Pelicans right now. And you said early in the week, back on Monday, spoiler scale, you already had this out of 10. Can you amp it up now?
The scale does not go to 11, so I guess we're kind of maxed out with this one. But, yeah, no, I think this is a huge game for the Lakers. And, by the way, too, I mean, I think if I'm correct when I look at the standings, that we could see Warriors versus Lakers in the first round of the playoffs. So, yeah, that's what it is right now, 4 and 5. I mean, obviously that could change a bunch with how close all these teams are, but that would be epic if we could see a Warriors-Lakers playoff series in the first round.
Yeah, well, let's see what takes place because the guy that's going to be calling it, he and JD, that is joining us next. Todd Graffagnini, some graphies and some thoughts as to maybe watching one of the best who ever played on a baseball diamond. How does that maybe correlate to basketball? You'll hear now on the Pelicans Podcast. All right, time to welcome in the radio voice of your New Orleans Pelicans, Todd Graffagnini. I guess first thing, the most important thing, you almost been there like a week in LA time. You're adjusted to the time zone change.
I love Pacific time. That's just me personally. I mean, what better way to wake up on a Friday morning out here in another cool, crisp, perfect Southern Californian morning than to wake up and do a Zoom with you guys. I mean, it's fantastic.
Jim, do you hear the enthusiasm out of that? Probably because he knows how it's hot and humid and it's breezy out here, and I'm already sweating walking in here.
Yeah, I mean, the enthusiasm is coming through the screen. It's amazing.
I figured you'd be happy. I mean, from your photo.
I kid because I care. I kid because I care.
You were right behind home plate for the Dodgers game, weren't you? How cool was that?
Actually, I was over the first base dugout. It was fantastic because, I went with the three guys on our staff, Chris Trahant and Henry Valier, who both are our PR guys, along with Jordan McGuire, who's a player development coach, and they'd never been to Dodger Stadium, so it was pretty awesome for me. And little did I know that Chris Trahant is a professional heckler, so I just sat back and watched him annihilate pretty much every Brave who struck out. I was just sitting back enjoying the show. And then, of course, Mookie Betts went deep against current NL Cy Young winner Chris Sale, and the Dodgers won the game. And now getting to the stadium and leaving the stadium, that are two different animals altogether. But I fully enjoyed the experience.
I do want to ask you, because obviously we're going to get into, I think Jim's calling it the graphies, essentially some thoughts of you, what it's like to be a broadcaster and where you go since you just got to see the multi-billion-dollar arena, Intuit Center or Intuit Dome. But just something with the Dodgers I want to bring up to you. Look, obviously you get to call games and you will tonight. I'm assuming, based on last night's game, that LeBron will play maybe and Luka, but those two are some of the best players in the league, and you've got a chance to actually call, future Hall of Famers. We were doing the game when Shohei Ohtani hit a game-winning walk-off home run. And look, there's so much talk about that guy could possibly be the best baseball player ever. Have you ever seen him in person? What was it like to see him in person?
That was the first time. Look, you look at him on television, and he just appears to be larger than life. And then when you see him in person, he is truly that big. I mean, it's like he was sculpted out of granite. I mean, just unbelievable. What a player. And then the thing about him, and you go into the stadium, and every time he walks out of the dugout and he's on deck, and then they announce his name, and you just feel the electricity in the stadium. But the thing about the other night, and obviously we were on the air when that happened, he rises to the occasion. I mean, it's bottom of the ninth, game tied, 1 out. He comes out, they introduce him, everybody gets on their feet. And they're going, all right, he's going to hit a home run and win the game. And that's exactly what he did. I mean, you can't, we are not far from Hollywood, but, you write a script, and that's how movies and television shows end. And then he does it. Yeah, it's a great time to be a Dodger fan. And by the way, I just want to say, I'm not a bandwagon Dodger fan. Okay, I'm not. I've been a Dodger fan since I've been 11 years old. Mm-hmm. So this is, I didn't hop on board.
You have a Venezuela jersey. You have a Fernando
Valenzuela.
Same thing.
No, it's not the same thing.
Is there an NBA
Venezuela is a country.
Yeah, same thing. Is there an NBA comp to what you just said?
Ooh.
Like, I'm watching the game last night, and that there was a sequence, Jim, and I don't know if you were watching it because it was East Coast time, man, but LeBron hits a 3, Curry hits a 3.
I will say that. And look, and I did watch the game last night, pretty much in entirety. Of course, it wasn't midnight back home. It was still a relatively decent hour, which again, why I love Pacific Coast time. But that sequence at the end, when Golden State was trying to put the game away and the Lakers would not allow them to put the game away, I have to say, being a full-blown Laker hater, that was pretty impressive, what the Lakers did to hang in there. But, LeBron's one of those types of players. Steph Curry is one of those types of players where if you need a bucket, they're going to get it. I don't think LeBron was that way early in his career, but he has certainly evolved into that. And again, it pains me to say it, but it's true. But Steph Curry probably might be number one in that list, because if you need a big shot to be knocked down, no matter how many guys are on him, he's going to do it. And it's never good when you're on the other side of that, but it's certainly a lot of fun to watch.
Graff, as a Phillies fan, this is as much Dodger talk as I can possibly take.
It's okay, Jim.
You or anyone. But I will say, though, I'm very pleased with the start that the Atlanta Braves are off to. You've contributed well to that. So
and I did text our former colleague, Daniel Sallerson, countless times.
Excellent.
Who, by the way, Daniel's in Ireland right now. So
right.
It was pretty cool. But I couldn't text him enough about having watched the Braves in person now. They really are that bad. One of my favorite expressions to use when I'm calling baseball games, or had called baseball games in the past, was the old bingo average, who I taught to my friends who I took to the game the other night. If you have an average that starts with a 0, like 065, 072, 081, that's a bingo average. Like you're yelling at bingo numbers.
Yeah.
Well, the Braves had 3 of them in their lineup, which I never saw before. So
that's
I was
great.
like, man, Daniel, your team is really bad.
That's great news. I love to hear that, Graff.
No, I know you are. So I'm glad I can make you smile.
Before we get into Pelicans Lakers too, I have seen Chris Trahant at work with his heckling yelling. I think it's been at hockey games, and I don't think he actually knew who any of the players were, but the guy is such a master craftsman that didn't matter.
Wow.
So the guy's elite.
Absolutely elite.
Yep. So,
I mean, look, I think I can heckle with the best of them, even though I've kind of toned that down over the years. I was impressed. I mean, really impressed. So that's about the highest compliment I can give him.
there you go. We might have to have him on sometime. And
I think you need to.
heckling with
Class
him.
of heckling. I like it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Turning to the Lakers Pelicans game, which I believe is the reason we're here today.
That's true.
Is our friend Joel Myers likes to say when a team loses a game or loses several games before the Pelicans play them, they're going to be very angry.
Right.
That was my best Joel Myers impersonation. Wasn't very good, but so my question is, how angry are the Lakers going to be tonight? And part B, I mean, how big of a game is this for them in terms of the race and obviously the situation the Pelicans are in?
Well, I don't think they're going to come in angry. I just think that they need wins. The race in the Western Conference top 6 is ridiculous. I mean, we had a really good taste of that a year ago when we were fighting to get that 6 seed. But I mean, if you look at the jumble between 2 and even 7 and 8 right now, it is. I mean, the standings change nightly. And, I was listening. I like to sync up radio broadcasts while watching TV. I was listening to Tim Roy last night, who is the fine voice of the Golden State Warriors. And, I mean, he kept saying constantly how much of a must-win this was for Golden State last night because of Memphis winning in Miami last night and Minnesota winning their game. I mean, those are the guys they're fighting with, or the teams they're fighting with, to try to stay where they are in the standings. Right now, the Lakers are 4th. Even with their loss last night, they're 1 game up on Golden State, who gained a game on the Lakers last night. Golden State right now sitting in 5th. So the standings are changing every single night in those positions. And of course, you know how important it is to be top 6. That just takes so much stress off of you not having to win 1 or 2 play-in games. But I don't think the Lakers care about, we're going to come in angry or anything. They just need wins. And I'm curious as to who's going to play for them tonight. Now, I'm assuming everybody else is. There was nobody on their injury report yesterday, nobody of consequence. They only had 2 players on their injury report. But would you sit out LeBron James tonight or Luka Doncic tonight if you're the Lakers, thinking, all right, well, the Pelicans are coming in. They've got 11 available players. All their frontline guys are not playing, and we can just roll the ball out there and win. I don't know if I would play it that way, because if you saw the other night, even though the Pelicans do have their shortcomings, specifically offensively and turning the ball over, with the new group that's playing right now, they're still going to give you a great effort. I mean, the Clippers didn't put the game away the other night till basically the end of the third quarter. And then they were kind of able to coast the rest of the way just because the Clippers are just such an experienced team. But I don't know if you can play it that way if you're the Lakers, because the Pels are going to play hard. That's one thing that we do know.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I guess we'll probably find out. I mean, not sure what time this will be posted, the podcast, but they have until 3:00 Central to submit their injury list, so this will be probably up, I'm sure, before then. But, I mean, we'll find out today. It really is an interesting question. I mean, are you concerned about playing some of these veteran guys in a back-to-back when they haven't been playing back-to-backs? I think Luka's been sitting out back-to-backs.
Right.
I mean, you're 70-something games into the season. But on the other hand, do you think, okay, it's worth the quote-unquote risk that we'll say Austin Reeves, go get 45 points tonight, and we'll sit our guys? So that'll be something that we'll have to monitor throughout the day of what they decide to do.
Yeah, Jim, and if you look at the box score and you watch the game last night, the Lakers are basically into their playoff rotation. I mean, they played 9 guys, and that was it. And Jonathan Goodwin played about 8-10 minutes. I mean, it's the starting five with Dorian Finney-Smith, Gabe Vincent, and
Hachimura.
And no, well, they put Rui back in the starting lineup now.
Yeah.
But that's it. I mean, they are playing 8 guys.
I mean, that's one of the things about the play-in tournament that I think is great in terms of the front end of the play-in tournament where you're trying to avoid being out of the top 6. It makes some of these games a lot more important, and it is one of those things. I think in the old format, maybe we wouldn't see that game treated as such an important game because you didn't have the penalty of if you drop out of the top 6, you're having to deal with play-in tournament games.
By the way, it's Jared Vanderbilt is who I was thinking of.
Yeah. You mentioned how competitive.
And Jordan Goodwin, not Jonathan.
Jordan Goodwin.
I'm thinking of the Saints center.
It's okay. It's very early out there. And
it is.
My kid
is.
We'll let that one slide. You mentioned how competitive the Pelicans were for really 3+ quarters against the Clippers on Wednesday. I mean, just in general, for fans out there, what do you want to see over these last 6 games? And is there a player that you're the most interested in over this last week and a half of the season to see how they play?
I just want to see more of the same. More of the same energy, determination. And it's really right now, Jim and Gus, it's about the young guys. That is our storyline pretty much every night. That's what John and I are talking about. We know what Kelly Olynyk can do. We know what Bruce Brown can do. I'm going to ask Willie Green before the game tonight about how he thinks Jose Alvarado's running the team, because now Jose's been starting a lot and he's running that first unit, and he picked up his second double-double of the season against the Clippers in his 3rd career. So Jose's doing things that he really hasn't done before. But make no mistake about it, right now it's all about Yves Missi and Carlo Makovich and Antonio Reeves and Keon Brooks Jr. Those are the guys we've really been focusing on in the last few games, and those are the guys we're really going to look at the rest of the way, because these minutes are invaluable for these guys. I'm going to talk to Keon Brooks after shoot-around today for our penultimate Pelicans Weekly, which is going to air next week. And look, he's playing 20 minutes a game now. I don't know if he would have even dreamed that he was going to be doing that when he was in Birmingham for all those games. So he's getting invaluable experience. And for the most part, especially in the last week and a half, he's produced. He had 3 straight career highs, 3 straight back-to-back games, culminating in that 17-point effort against Charlotte. And then the other night, he's going to have a memory that he's going to remember for the rest of his life. He's got Kawhi Leonard on the right baseline, sizing him up, ready to take him to the hole, and he picked Kawhi Leonard's pocket. He clawed the claw. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Like a moment like that, John and I were like, that's freaking fantastic, because he'll never forget that moment as long as he lived, no matter what happens for the rest of his career. So it's all about those young guys right now, Jim. And I can't believe I forgot Carlo Makovich. Yeah. Carlo as well. You can almost pencil in now, guys. Carlo Makovich is going to score double figures every game. And that's one guy who I've really been impressed with in the last 2 months. That guy can play. And John DeShazer is a huge Carlo fan. And I don't think it's very hard to see that. I think the more he plays, a lot of people are going to become Carlo fans because of what he can do. You didn't see the athleticism early on in training camp, even though he always had it. I just think that he's kind of broken out of his shell a little bit and realizes that he can play at this level on a night in and night out basis. And my favorite thing about Carlo is he is a finisher. I mean, he is a
Aggressive.
finisher. And, Elfrid Payton, who, of course, is now on a second 10-day contract. I mean, is there a better combo than Elfrid Payton lobbing it up to Carlo Makovic? I mean, the ball's going down. It is going down. So, it's young guys, and that's the way it's going to be for the last, now what? We've got 9 days left in the regular season.
Yep. Gus, I'm writing this down right now. John DeShazer will be our guest for the Carlo Makovic season review podcast. We're gonna announce that. He doesn't know this yet, but we're gonna.
He's gonna be thrilled.
Excellent. By the way, Graff, I think we should tell Keon Brooks. A lot of times they get the question, "What was your welcome to the NBA moment?" And a lot of guys say, "Well, I got dunked on by somebody," or I got crossed over. We'll have to remind him. Just keep telling everybody when they ask you that question that I picked Kawhi Leonard clean in a game on the Clippers' home floor, and that'll be a perfect answer for that question.
Jim, you know how, like, when you do something and then years and years later, the fish gets bigger? Like you catch that fish.
Yes, definitely.
And, it was a 6-pound bass, and then 10 years later, it was a 16-pound bass. Hey, man, that is legitimate. That is a legitimate story. Even though we were in the nosebleeds at Intuit Dome, we saw it perfectly, and that is a story that will never be more embellished than it is, because it's completely true.
And we're going to get to that here in a quick second. Part of your graphics parts. I know Jim can't wait to get into that and get your thoughts, but just kind of wrap up on that. To your point, the last home game here was Golden State, and the Clippers tonight. You guys opened up with talking about the importance of this game against the Lakers. Now, whether LeBron didn't play or not, but that's invaluable, man. To Carlo, to KB, to these guys to be able to play, games where it's mattering to some of these opponents, and the venue and the players you're talking about, because it's matter. I mean, hey, man, I would love, just to play 21 a horse with Steph Curry, much less guard him in a real NBA game in which they're trying to win, because they had lost a couple games going into that game. So that's a great point, Graff, Jim.
Yeah, last thing for me before we get into the graphies, one of the things I wanted to follow up on that you mentioned, Graff, too, in terms of the rookies. I wrote about this morning briefly how over the last 6 games, which coincides with Keon Brooks being in the rotation, the Pelicans have had the 3rd most points scored from rookies. So, I mean, they're in that group now of teams where you're seeing a bunch of guys that haven't gotten a lot of minutes. I mean, I think Washington and Toronto, the only teams over this recent span that have had more points scored by rookies. So it's been, obviously we'd be happier with the results being different for this season, but it has been enjoyable to see some of these guys play. And also, too, one of the things you also mentioned was talking about Jose, the way he's played. To me, it's been invaluable to have a point guard, Elfrid Payton included, to have 2 point guards who can get the team organized. And I think some of these first-year guys are getting more out of these minutes than maybe they otherwise would if there, if it was a case where you didn't have that kind of leader, point guard guy to get things set up and put in place. I think those guys have helped a ton lately.
I agree 100%. And the thing about Jose, I mean, Jose is becoming much more assertive offensively as well. I mean, he has just taken a ton of shots. I think he's maybe at times kind of dribbling around too much, trying to do a little bit too much himself. But that's fine. But the more that he is out there and running the team and dishing the ball and scoring, this is just more, not that he lacks any confidence. I just think that when you see the results that he is having, that's just going to be huge for him going into next year, because he knows if he's coming off the bench, which more than likely he will next season, but this is, someone who you might be able to count on for points offensively, because, I mean, you look at some of the lineups that we've had out here in the last couple of weeks. I mean, John and I are going, well, I mean, where's the offense coming from? You just don't know from time to time, rotation. And Jose has really done a good job on the offensive end. He's starting to perfect that little runner in the lane, Jim, that you've seen. As a matter of fact, last night when I was, watching the game, I was thinking about, just our team and how we're going to match up with the Lakers. And I'm thinking about Jose a little bit, and just I might have to name that runner for him.
Definitely.
Give it a name.
It was funny when you mentioned.
Got to be organic.
Yes. When you mentioned him dribbling around, it reminded me if people really had to be, if you're a real Pelicans diehard, if you know what I'm talking about when I say this. There was a play in the Clippers game where he dribbled. I don't think I've ever seen a player do the Nash dribble twice. The Nash dribble basically is where you do a complete circle around the paint.
Circle.
He did it twice.
Yeah.
I was starting to get dizzy just watching him do that. But yeah, that was just an interesting play that he had in that game. Lastly, we talked about the rookies. There's actually another rookie that's going to be in the mix who was just signed by the Pelicans, a big guy. How much do we know about Kyler Kelly? He played a little bit for Dallas earlier this season in terms of what impact he can make and. Look,
10-day contract, so basically going to take him to the end of the season. We'll find out. I mean, we're about to go to shoot around here, so I'll see if he's here,
right.
And B, if he's at shoot around, how they're going to try to work him in. I mean, the fact that they signed him tells me that they're going to give him at least a look.
Sure.
I mean, he played minimally with Dallas. He played, 8-9 games?
8 games, yeah.
Yeah, 8 games. He's a 7-footer. In the G League, though, he was a big-time shot blocker. He was G League Defensive Player of the Year a year ago when he averaged 2.5 blocks, which is significant in games. So, we'll find out, Jim. I don't think that he played against us because I do remember him being on the roster in Dallas the last time we played Dallas because he was already on my chart. So I don't recall if he played for Dallas in that game, the last game that we played him. But I got to imagine we're going to get a look at him in the last 10 days.
I mean, I like to hear the stuff about the defense. Obviously, that's been an area that has been lacking this season that we've talked about a lot. Before throwing it back to Gus, I mean, just real quickly about Kyler Kelly, a couple notes I jotted down. He played in the 8 games we mentioned. He made one NBA start with Dallas, which was he actually had a double-double, 12 points, 11 rebounds at Cleveland. But the interesting part about that game was it was the day after the Luka trade. So, I mean, that was definitely a unique circumstance for him to be involved in. And lastly, too, he was in the Lakers training camp, too. So, I mean, maybe they signed him because he's got some inside information that they can apply to the game tonight.
He played significantly with the Lakers G League team this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, we'll find out. We'll find out.
All right, the Graffies, you did such a great job on the radio roundtable. We were going through different nominations, and the Pellies, we're going to do the Graffies. It's a very short feature. Give me your best 3 radio locations, and if you'd like, you can graph it up and give me the worst ones as well. But because tell me about the Intuit Dough. How's that location? Is that
okay? Well, it's awful. I know that Joel and Antonio were just constantly talking about nosebleeds and altitude sickness and. It's just amazing to me how you can build a place like that. And let me tell you what, it is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, $2.2 billion, it better be, but it is. I mean, every box is checked, every bell, every whistle, they've got it. They have it, unless you're a broadcaster. We're way up top. It's like you're in a sardine can. There's no room for me, John, and the stat person. Joel and AD were to our right. It's just, I mean, they designed it so poorly for broadcasters. There's 5 rows of seats that are below us, which are tarped, because they cannot use them because the television cameras are right in front of those seats. So, I mean,
that's wild.
How is that possible? But I think that people have complained so much that they're going to switch it next year and move the broadcasters to where the cameras are and back the cameras to where we are. Now, when they do that, that's going to be a good spot because the cameras are basically hanging over the ledge. And then, hey, guess what? They'll be able to use those seats. I mean, think about how many tens of thousands of dollars that they're missing out on because the way they designed. I should have taken a picture of it, but I was like, there's 5 rows of seats and 20 seats in the row, and they can't use them. They can't use them. They're tarped. It's incredible to me. And they're mid-court.
Wow.
They're mid-court.
Wow.
But the Intuit Dome is fantastic unless you have to broadcast there.
All right,
okay.
Top 3.
Best places. Okay, I will say this. The best place to broadcast a game as far as atmosphere goes is Boston. Hands down. Hands down. It's just the worst broadcast location. But Boston is the only place in the NBA that I've been to in my 6 years where every seat is filled before tip-off. It's unbelievable. They get there early. They're in their seats. They go nuts. And then, it's a basketball mecca. And then you throw on top the banners and the rafters and the parquet floor and the leprechaun. I mean, it's awesome. The only problem is you're in a corner, and it's the worst vantage point in the NBA. For radio. TV gets to sit courtside, but, they treat TV people much better than they do radio people. But that's the best place to broadcast a game, vantage point aside. 3 best vantage points in arenas, in my opinion, and talking about the whole experience, including vantage point. Number 1 is Indiana. Best arena in the league, Gainbridge Fieldhouse, old school Fieldhouse, just basketball. They have other events there, obviously, but you could tell it was built for basketball the way it was. We're in the second deck, very good sight lines, as far as not being on the court. Great place to watch and broadcast a game. Number 2 is Cleveland. Again, unbelievable vantage point. It's an old school arena. They call it the Joe Tate perch, where we sit. Joe Tate was a legendary broadcaster for the Cavaliers, whose final game was when LeBron won the championship, and then Joe Tate retired. He has since passed away, but he moved upstairs many, many years ago, and we sit basically on an overhang balcony, second level, so you're almost on top of the lower bowl, which really isn't that big. But you've got a great spot in Cleveland, and the arena's very loud. Now, the public address system just blows your ears away, but that's a whole nother conversation. Great spot there. And who was my other one? Oh, Chicago, which have gone by the way of the dinosaur. That is one of our final 3 locations where we are on the court. We're sitting right next to the Pelicans bench, and there's just nothing like being courtside at an NBA game. It's not like Detroit and Toronto, the other 2 courtside spots, because you're second row, so you're a little further back. But Chicago, you're pretty much on the court. And it reminds me of being in college again. And it's just, you get the feel of everything when you're down there. The energy of the arena, the speed of the game, the size of the players. You just feel like you're in it. And then, of course, you look over your right shoulder, Gus, and you see the 6 banners. That literally is the house that Jordan built. The United Center wasn't there when Jordan started. That was Chicago Stadium,
yeah.
Which was right across the street, which doesn't exist anymore. But United Center is pretty awesome, and it's huge. It's 20,000 seats. It's a huge arena. But I think those are my top 3. And then, again, I hate to say it, but going to Crypto, formerly, the artist formerly known as the Staples Center, which we're going to tonight. Great location for not being on the court. Probably the best in the NBA not being on the court. What you see on television is exactly what you're seeing from the radio and TV spots, because we're actually 1 row lower than the cameras, and it's the same vantage point. A lot of the places we sit in, we're on the other side of the camera, so everything you see and what we describe is flipped from what you're watching on television. This is exactly what you're going to see on TV tonight when you're talking about right to left, left to right. You know, everything you're seeing on camera is what we see. You're about halfway up the lower bowl at Crypto, and the sight lines are fantastic. So how's that for the Graffies? Is that good?
I like it. You know, by the way, do you guys realize that they had to take the Bulls banners down because they had pyrotechnics at a show, and they singed the bottom of the the pyrotechnics, like singed the bottom of the banner. So they had to take them down, and I guess they're redoing them or fixing them or whatever. So one of the things you talked about reminded me, somewhere down the road, maybe next season, we'll do a top 3 way too loud PA systems.
Ooh.
I have my opinions from the 7 seasons that I traveled to every single game as well, but I'll save those for a later date.
Save them because I could give you 2 of them right now.
Go
you
for
already
it.
heard number 1.
Yeah,
Number
mine
2.
is Miami.
Number 2
my
is
worst
Charlotte.
is Miami. Charlotte. Okay. Yeah, Cleveland's
Well,
pretty
again, you know me, I'm a stick mic guy, and I have to use headsets on the road now because of PA systems.
Yeah, it's out of control. It's
right.
an epidemic.
All right. Well, Graff, thanks for your time. And again, we have so many different. Well, Jim, go ahead, just get on the phone right now, book it right now. We got to get the Trahan How to Hackle podcast. I mean, that sounds fantastic to me. Because
master class.
Well, if you're calling him a master, that means you have to be able to do it without getting kicked out, which means.
Oh no, he does it perfectly.
That nature.
Perfectly. Again,
I didn't never guess because he never really talks when I'm around him.
He does it loudly, yet subtly, and every statement has a cutting, biting purpose.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. And gestures as well.
Really? No, we told Jim. We have to do this.
You have to get the full
studio
scope.
Next door. We need to do this.
You have to get the full scope.
Sounds good. Thank you, Graff. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll hear you and JD's calls.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thanks, Graff.
Our thanks to Todd Graffagnini, radio voice of your New Orleans Pelicans. You mentioned there in our conversation you're a Philly fan, so you're very happy as to how the Braves season has started. I'm kind of the same way when I see, the Cardinals struggle and all that. I'm just happy the Cubs are at least competitive this year, man. I don't know if the Cubs and Phillies will ever meet in the playoffs, though, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to sound like a baseball snob here, but the Phillies, making the playoffs at this, I can't believe I'm saying this based on the most of what I've experienced with them, but it's like making the playoffs is like a foregone conclusion. It seems like at this point. I don't want to jinx anything, but it'd be cool to see the Cubbies in the playoffs, see some Wrigley postseason, get back to that. I haven't looked at the standings. I just checked just now. I see they're 5-4, so not bad. Maybe and the Cardinals are in first, so they're not supposed to be that good this year, so that division's probably wide open. Maybe it's there for the taking for you.
They're still there, Jim, just a half game back on April 4th. That's it's kind of where we want to be, right? That's where it is. But we do have, of course, a lot to get into here still before we wrap up very briefly. It is Friday, a lot of info to come, so let's go.
TGI Jim, it's Friday, which means Mr. Eichenhofer has a pair of things for us. Trending numbers and weekend showdown. What are we starting with, Jim?
Well, Mallory, let's start with the trending number, and the trending number is 1, and that is there's only one season series in the entire NBA that has not begun yet, Gus, and that is the Bucks versus the Pelicans. I want to give John Schumann of NBA.com credit for this because he mentioned this earlier in the week that there were only 2 series that hadn't started. The other one was Timberwolves versus Nets, which they played on Thursday night, so that one has already begun. So in the end, obviously the January snowstorm had everything to do with this, the fact that the Pelicans have not played the Bucks yet this season. We talked a lot about the Lakers game tonight for obvious reasons. We didn't really get into the Milwaukee game, but interesting to see that, over the Bucks' last 5 or 6 games of the season, they're going to play the Pelicans twice. So New Orleans is also going to play a role in determining what happens right now with Milwaukee is in a tight battle with Detroit for 5 and 6 in the East, and that's going to determine who plays against the Pacers in the first round and who plays against the Knicks. So it'll be interesting to see, if the Pelicans can get a win or two against Milwaukee and play spoiler against them. But yeah, none have not played the Bucks this season, but we'll play them twice over the next handful of days. And the weekend showdown is Sunday afternoon at 2:30. It is the Lakers and the Thunder. A huge matchup. The OKC still has a chance to win 70 games if they run the table the rest of the way. They're 64-12 right now. They do have a game at Houston tonight, which is difficult, but they could go into that Lakers. They actually play the Lakers on Tuesday as well. So those will be two really important games, and I'll be curious to see how that goes. So you're really going to have a slew of teams in the West that become OKC Thunder fans on Sunday and Tuesday because, for example, if they could beat the Lakers twice, that's going to have a massive impact on the race in that pack where there's so many teams battling between 3 and 8 right now. OKC's had number 1 clinched for a long time. Houston's looking very good for the 2 seed unless they have a real rough final week. But man, 3 through 8 is so tight right now. And so I'm looking forward to the last part of the season but the Sunday showdown is the start of a 2-game series for the Lakers in Oklahoma City. Not an easy way to kind of wind down the regular season for them.
I mentioned it in a conversation with Graff as we wrap up here, Jim. Something tells me that while unfortunate, just the circumstances, you're not with us here. Just a little smile maybe might come across your face if the Pels can spoil the Lakers Friday night tonight. It wouldn't be a bad thing, right? Is what it is.
Not a little smile, a very large smile, Gus. Definitely.
I hear you, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time, Mr. Jim Eichenhofer. If you want to give a follow, of course, Jim_Eichenhofer, of course, Pelicans.com. Before the game, after the game, in between games, Jim's got you covered. Thank you, Jim. Safe travels back and forth, man.
Thanks, Gus.
And that'll do it for us. We'll see you on Monday. Aaron Summers will be joining me on the New Orleans Pelicans podcast. Until then, enjoy the weekend, and thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Pelicans podcast. Join us 3 times per week on Pelicans.com, the Pelicans mobile app, the iHeartRadio app, or where you get your podcasts. And be sure to give Jim and Gus a follow on X at Jim_Eichenhofer and GCat_17. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Pelicans podcast.